Divine Feminine. Can you feel it? That strange stillness in your soul, as if something has shifted but you can't explain why. The pain that once broke you no longer has the same weight. The lessons that kept repeating suddenly feel complete. This is not another cycle. This is the end of your awakening, and something strange is rising now. A force that will change everything. For so long, the Divine Feminine has been walking through fire. Every step of her journey has been marked by endings, by lessons that repeated until she thought she could not bear them anymore. It has felt endless, like a spiral with no exit. Relationships that tested her worth, silences that pierced her faith, cycles of giving too much, only to be abandoned. Again and again, she was brought to her knees, stripped bare, and forced to rise stronger than before. This is the awakening. It is the dismantling of everything false, so that only truth remains. And for the Divine Feminine, it has been both brutal and holy. She has lost what she thought she needed. She has been rejected by those she loved most. She has watched illusions burn to ashes. But through it all, she has discovered the one thing she was never meant to lose: herself. Now, something strange is happening. The weight that once crushed her feels lighter. The patterns that used to repeat endlessly no longer have the same grip. The same triggers that once pulled her into despair now pass through her like smoke. She is no longer collapsing. She is standing. She is no longer searching for love outside of herself. She is embodying it within. This is the final stage of awakening, the shift from survival into sovereignty. For the first time, the Divine Feminine is not waiting for the masculine to choose her, not begging the universe for signs, not questioning if she is enough. She knows she is enough. She knows the connection is real. She knows her worth is not up for debate. This knowing is not loud or desperate. It is quiet, steady, undeniable. And here lies the paradox. The feminine thinks she is at the end, but truly, she is at the beginning. Because the end of awakening is not death, it is rebirth. It is the closing of the chapter where she was tested, and the opening of the chapter where she embodies who she became. Have you felt it? That subtle but undeniable shift where the old pain doesn't hook you anymore, where the silence of the masculine no longer destroys you, but simply confirms that he is in his own process, where you stop trying to force, chase, or fix, and instead allow the energy to align. That is the final stage. It is not apathy, it is mastery. This stage is sacred because it changes everything. Until now, the feminine's awakening was about release. letting go of illusions, cutting karmic ties, breaking patterns. It was about loss, but now it becomes about embodiment, about living as the truth she discovered in the fire. She doesn't just know her worth, she radiates it. She doesn't just believe in union, she anchors it. She doesn't just hope for change, she becomes the change. And as this shift unfolds, the masculine feels it instantly. He may not understand what has happened, but he senses the difference in her energy. The desperation is gone. The fear is gone. The cycles are gone. What remains is presence, a steady light that calls to him not with demand, but with truth. The end of awakening is not quiet, it reverberates through the field. The universe itself responds. The energy between counterparts shifts. The invisible resistance begins to collapse. This is why, when the feminine reaches this final stage, everything in the connection begins to accelerate. The final stage of the feminine awakening is not about waiting anymore. It is about being. It is about living her truth so fully that the masculine has no choice but to confront his own. And when this stage is reached, union is no longer a question of if, it becomes a matter of when. This is the strange, sacred truth. Your awakening is ending. The cycles are complete. The fire has done its work. And now everything is about to change. Why the cycles are no longer repeating. For most of her awakening, the divine feminine lived inside of repeating cycles. Every lesson came back again and again, often through different faces, but the same story. She would give too much and be left empty. She would trust deeply and be betrayed. She would wait faithfully, only to face silence. And each time, she would rise again, only to be tested once more. It seemed endless, as if she was trapped in a loop designed to break her. But now, something has shifted. The cycles are no longer repeating. The same triggers that once tore her open do not carry the same weight anymore. The same silence that used to feel like death now feels like space. The same rejection that once crushed her now reveals her strength. Why? Because she has integrated the lessons. The spiral has reached its peak. The soul no longer needs to bring the same pain in order to awaken her, because she is already awake. In the beginning, the feminine thought the cycles meant punishment. She believed the universe was cruel, dragging her through suffering for no reason. But now she sees the truth. The cycles were not punishment, they were purification. Each round stripped away another illusion. Each heartbreak tore down another false identity. Each silence forced her deeper into herself. The cycles were sacred fire, burning away what could not survive in the light of union. And the reason they are no longer repeating is simple. She no longer needs them. Awakening is a process of refinement. When the soul learns, the test ends. The feminine has learned. She has remembered her worth. She has stopped begging to be chosen. She has stopped giving her power away. She has stopped collapsing into fear when the masculine runs. These were the lessons the cycles were teaching, and because she embodied them, the cycles dissolve. Have you noticed this in your own life? That the things that once triggered your deepest wounds now feel strangely lighter, that you can watch the masculine pull away, and instead of chasing, you stand in your sovereignty, that you can feel the silence, and instead of breaking, you trust. That is the evidence. That is how you know the cycles have ended. The soul does not keep sending tests you have already passed. This is the strange beauty of the twin flame path. For so long, it feels like torment, until one day it shifts. The loop breaks. The feminine realizes she is no longer the same woman she was at the beginning. She is no longer controlled by the fear of abandonment. She is no longer desperate for validation. She is no longer living in the shadow of rejection. She has changed. And because she has changed, the story changes too. The end of cycles is not the end of growth. It is the beginning of embodiment. The feminine no longer has to fight the same battles. Instead, she now lives from the truth those battles carved into her. She doesn't just know she is worthy. She carries herself as worthy. She doesn't just believe in union. She anchors union in her field. She doesn't just hope for love. She radiates love. And this is why the connection begins to shift dramatically. When the feminine no longer collapses, the masculine can no longer hide in the same way. Her energy has changed. Her field has changed. The dynamic has changed. The old cycle cannot repeat because she will not repeat it. This is the proof that her awakening is ending. The wheel has stopped turning. The same story no longer plays. The pain no longer rules her. The cycle has dissolved because the feminine has risen beyond it. This is not emptiness. This is freedom. The end of cycles is the beginning of something strange, something powerful, the reality where union can finally take root. When the divine feminine reaches the final threshold of awakening, something unusual begins to happen. The intensity that once consumed her starts to fade, not into emptiness, but into clarity. The pain that used to feel like fire turns into quiet strength. And as this shift unfolds, she begins to notice strange signs that do not fit the old cycles, but announce something new: transition. The first sign is the silence inside her. For so long, her inner world was filled with noise, doubts, fears, endless questions. Why is he silent? Why am I not enough? What did I do wrong? These thoughts replayed like a constant storm. But now, the storm is ending. The questions no longer echo the same way. The silence inside her is not heavy. It is peaceful. She is no longer chasing answers. She is resting in knowing. The second sign is detachment. Not apathy, not indifference, but a strange neutrality. She looks at the masculine, at his choices, at his distance, and instead of collapsing, she feels calm. She doesn't need to fix him. She doesn't need to pull him closer. She knows the connection is eternal, and because she knows, she can finally release control. This detachment feels strange at first because she is used to the intensity, but in truth, it is sovereignty. The third sign is the dissolving of triggers. Situations that once broke her, silence, rejection, abandonment, now feel different. She may still feel the pang of pain, but it no longer overtakes her. Instead of spiraling, she breathes. Instead of chasing, she chooses herself. Instead of begging, she trusts. The feminine realizes that she has shifted from reaction to embodiment. And this is strange, because for years, the wound dictated her every move. Now, the wound no longer controls her. Another strange sign is the shift in energy around her. People begin to notice her differently. She attracts new connections, opportunities, and experiences that align with her truth. The external world mirrors her internal transformation. She may even notice the masculine's energy pressing on her more strongly, even if he remains silent. His soul feels the change, and the field between them begins to rearrange itself. The feminine also experiences unusual bursts of creativity and clarity. Ideas flow, inspiration comes, her purpose feels clearer. This is because her energy is no longer consumed by the old cycles. With the weight lifted, space opens for creation. And this creativity is not random. It is a sign that she is moving from awakening into embodiment, from healing into building, from searching into becoming. Have you felt these shifts? That strange sense of peace where there used to be chaos? That calm detachment where there used to be desperation? that sudden surge of inspiration that feels almost otherworldly. These are not coincidences. These are the markers of transition. The feminine may also feel a stronger connection to the unseen, vivid dreams, heightened intuition, synchronicities that border on the impossible. It feels as if the veil between her and the divine is thinner than ever. And it is. Because the universe is signaling that she is no longer in the initiation. She is stepping into embodiment. This stage is strange because it feels both quiet and powerful. There is less chaos, less drama, less emotional collapse. But underneath, there is more truth, more alignment, more power than ever before. The feminine realizes that the fire of awakening was never meant to last forever. Its purpose was to purify her so she could stand here in this new frequency. And in this frequency, everything begins to change. The masculine feels the difference. The connection feels the difference. The universe itself rearranges to meet her new vibration. These strange signs are not random. They are the announcement that the awakening is ending. The spiral is closing. The next chapter is about to begin. For the divine feminine, the awakening journey has been almost entirely about healing. Healing wounds of abandonment. Healing patterns of self-betrayal. Healing the illusion that her worth depended on being chosen. For years, her path has been a spiral of breaking and mending, collapsing and rising, losing and rediscovering herself. Healing was necessary, but it was never the destination. Now, she stands at the threshold of something far greater, embodiment. Healing is about repairing what was broken. Embodiment is about becoming who she truly is. Healing looks backward. It addresses the past. Embodiment looks forward. It creates the future. Healing is survival. Embodiment is creation. And when the feminine moves from one into the other, everything changes. At first, this transition feels strange. She has lived so long in the energy of healing that she almost doesn't know how to live outside of it. She is used to searching for wounds, identifying lessons, bracing for tests. But now, she realizes that the lessons have been integrated. The pain has served its purpose. The fire has purified her. She is no longer meant to live in endless cycles of healing. She is meant to live as the healed. Embodiment means she no longer just speaks of sovereignty, she radiates it. She no longer just believes in her worth. She carries herself as worthy in every choice she makes. She no longer just hopes for union. She anchors the energy of union in her field without forcing. She no longer waits, she becomes. Have you noticed this shift in yourself? That instead of analyzing every trigger, you simply breathe and move through it. That instead of collapsing in silence, you hold your center. That instead of asking, "When will he come?" you begin to live as if you already are whole. This is embodiment. It is the stage where you stop rehearsing your truth and begin living it. And here lies the mystery. When the feminine enters embodiment, the masculine feels it immediately. He may not have words for it, but he senses the difference. The old energetic pattern he was used to no longer exists. The feminine is not chasing. She is not waiting. She is not collapsing into his silence. She is standing steady, radiant, magnetic. Her energy shifts the entire field, and the masculine begins to feel the pull in a way he cannot deny. The universe also responds. Opportunities align. Synchronicities intensify, new doors open. Why? Because the feminine's frequency has changed. She is no longer vibrating in lessons and lack. She is vibrating in embodiment and abundance. The external world mirrors her internal transformation. This stage also brings a new responsibility. Embodiment is not passive. It is not about waiting for things to happen. It is about living consciously, choosing actions and thoughts that reflect the truth of who she is now. It is about holding the vibration of union, even when the physical has not yet caught up. It is about becoming the anchor of alignment. The feminine realizes that healing was about her survival, but embodiment is about her mission. Her awakening was about her, but her embodiment is about everything. It transforms her relationships, her purpose, her presence in the world. It is the stage where her energy becomes medicine, not only for the masculine, but for everyone around her. This is why the end of awakening feels so different. It is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning of living it. So if you feel that shift, that you are no longer endlessly processing, but finally living, trust it. You are stepping into embodiment. And embodiment is the frequency that changes everything. The healing stage has ended. The embodiment has begun. How the masculine responds instantly. When the divine feminine shifts from healing into embodiment, the entire energy of the twin flame connection changes, and the masculine feels it instantly, even if he cannot explain it, even if he doesn't yet understand why. For so long, he was used to a certain pattern. The feminine carried the weight of the bond, reaching out, holding space, chasing, collapsing when he pulled away. This dynamic, though painful, gave him a sense of control. He believed he could run without losing her, hide without consequence, stay silent while she carried the dialogue. But the moment she steps into embodiment, that illusion dissolves. Suddenly, her energy is different. The pull he once resisted feels stronger, not because she is chasing, but because she has stopped. The absence of her old desperation creates a void that he cannot ignore. He feels it as restlessness, as a pressure in his chest, as a subtle but constant reminder that something has shifted. He doesn't know why, but he knows. The feminine is no longer where he left her. Have you noticed this? The moment you stop waiting, he starts to feel you more. The moment you stop collapsing into silence, his silence grows heavy. The moment you stand in your sovereignty, he begins to unravel. This is not coincidence. It is energetic law. When the feminine embodies her truth, the masculine is forced to face his. At first, this can trigger him. He may feel anxiety, guilt, or even anger. The energy he once relied on for comfort is no longer feeding him the same way. He may try to distract himself more, to reach for old escapes. But the escapes no longer work. Nothing satisfies, nothing numbs, because her frequency has shifted and his soul feels the gap between where he is and where he is meant to be. This is where the feminine often notices an increase in energetic communication. Dreams become more vivid. Waves of longing hit stronger. His presence in her field grows undeniable. Why? Because his soul is reaching. Even if his ego resists, his spirit cannot help but respond to her embodiment. He feels her sovereignty like a beacon, and it calls him home. The masculine responds instantly because the bond has always been mirrored. When she was chasing, he ran. When she collapsed, he avoided. But now that she is standing steady, he feels both exposed and drawn. He realizes the old dance is over. There is no more control. There is only truth. And this truth terrifies him, but it also awakens him. He begins to feel the ache more deeply, the emptiness more sharply. He realizes that no distraction, no substitute, no escape will ever match the resonance of the feminine in embodiment. She is not just the woman he loved. She is the mirror of his soul. And now her frequency demands that he rise. The feminine must remember his response is not always immediate action. He may not send a message the next day. He may not appear at her door right away. But underneath, the shift is undeniable. His energy has already begun to move. His soul has already begun to turn toward her. This is the strange power of embodiment. It creates movement without effort. The feminine no longer needs to push. Her being is enough. Her light is enough. Her sovereignty is enough. The masculine feels it, and he cannot ignore it. So if you sense him stirring, if you feel his energy pressing into your field more strongly, if the signs and synchronicities have intensified, know this: it is because you have changed. And because you have changed, he must change too. This is how union begins, not with chasing, not with force, but with the feminine embodying her truth and the masculine responding instantly. When the divine feminine completes her awakening and steps fully into embodiment, something extraordinary begins to happen. The entire universe responds. The shift within her is not isolated. It radiates outward, touching everything around her. The energy she carries is no longer the energy of someone waiting to be chosen or someone processing endless cycles of pain. It is the frequency of alignment, and alignment always rearranges reality. For so long, the feminine's external world mirrored her wounds. She attracted partners who abandoned her because abandonment was the very wound she carried. She drew in silence because silence was the test she still feared. She experienced rejection because rejection was still the place she needed to heal. But once the wound is integrated, once the lesson is complete, the external mirror has to change. The universe cannot keep giving her what she has already mastered. It must now bring her what matches her new vibration. This is why everything begins to shift at once. Relationships that once drained her fall away. Opportunities that align with her higher purpose appear out of nowhere. Synchronicities multiply until they feel almost impossible to ignore. It's as if the entire fabric of reality bends around her new energy, rushing to catch up with who she has become. Have you noticed this? The way doors begin to open effortlessly when you stop forcing. The way people suddenly treat you differently when you stand in your worth. The way you no longer tolerate what once destroyed you, and in response, the universe removes it from your path. This is not coincidence. This is the evidence of embodiment. The masculine feels this shift too. Even from a distance, even in silence, he senses that the feminine's energy has changed. The desperation is gone. The chasing is gone. The waiting is gone. What remains is a magnetic presence that pulls at his soul. And because the bond is mirrored, the universe also begins to press on him more strongly. His old patterns collapse. His escapes lose their power. His distractions no longer work. The universe will not let him stay the same because she is no longer the same. This is why the end of the feminine's awakening is so powerful. It is not just about her. It is about the entire field of the connection. Her embodiment forces the masculine into motion, but it also forces the universe to rearrange everything so that union can be possible. Timelines collapse, blockages dissolve, resistance breaks. The silence, which once felt eternal, begins to crack under the weight of this new energy. The feminine realizes that she no longer has to force, chase, or beg. Her very vibration does the work. Her being radiates truth, and truth is magnetic. She does not need to make things happen. They begin to happen around her, through her, because of her. This is the miracle of embodiment. She becomes the anchor point through which the universe manifests alignment. And here is the strange but sacred truth. The end of awakening doesn't mean life becomes effortless or free from challenge. It means that every challenge now serves alignment instead of illusion. Every shift, no matter how strange, pulls her closer to union instead of deeper into separation. The feminine sees clearly that the universe has always been responding to her energy. And now that her energy has changed, everything must change. So if you are in this stage, pay attention. Notice the synchronicities. Notice the effortless flow. Notice how reality itself feels different, lighter, more aligned, more magnetic. These are not small things. These are the signs that the universe is rearranging everything in your favor. The feminine does not chase alignment. She embodies it. And when she does, the universe shifts with her. There comes a moment in every divine feminine's journey when she realizes the fire has done its work. For so long, her life was one initiation after another. Lessons that broke her open, tests that pushed her to her limits, cycles that seemed endless. Awakening felt like walking through constant storms, losing parts of herself only to discover she was meant to rise from the ashes again and again. But now she can feel it. That time is ending. The intensity no longer burns the same way. The lessons no longer loop endlessly. The wounds no longer control her. She is no longer defined by healing. She is defined by who she has become. And that is the sign. The end of awakening is not emptiness. It is completion. It is the closing of a chapter that was never meant to last forever. The feminine often fears this stage at first. She wonders, if the lessons end, will the connection end too. If I no longer feel the fire, does it mean the bond has faded? But the truth is the opposite. The end of awakening does not mean the connection is weaker. It means it is finally strong enough to hold union. The constant lessons were preparation. The fire was purification. Now the feminine carries what she once searched for. She embodies what she once begged to receive. And here lies the paradox. What feels like an ending is actually the beginning. Because when awakening ends, embodiment begins. And embodiment is the frequency that makes union inevitable. The masculine feels this shift instantly. He may not know why, but he senses that the feminine is no longer waiting for him, no longer chasing him, no longer collapsing in his absence. Her energy has become steady, radiant, unshakable, and in that steadiness, his soul recognizes home. The void he tried to fill with distractions becomes unbearable. The silence he thought protected him becomes a prison. And suddenly, the only place that feels alive is where she already stands. The universe also responds. Timelines collapse, doors open, resistance dissolves. What once felt blocked begins to move. Everything in the field shifts to match her embodiment. And because she has reached this frequency, the masculine and the connection itself must rise to meet it. This is why the end of awakening is the beginning of union. Not because the feminine has finished her journey, but because she has become the sick journey. She is no longer a seeker. She is the anchor. She no longer hopes. She knows. She no longer waits. She is. So if you feel the fire quieting, the cycles dissolving, the strange stillness inside of you, trust it. It is not the end of your story. It is the proof that the story is shifting into a new chapter, the one you have been waiting for, the one your soul always knew was coming. The awakening is ending, union is beginning, and nothing will ever be the same.